We beseech you to behold with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you have called to the performance of important trust in these islands. Father, let your blessing descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we may treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of these islands and of those whose interest you have committed to our charge. And this we beg in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore. Amen. Please be seated. Before I say anything, I would just like to acknowledge the presence of the Deputy Premier and the Minister of Home Affairs, Minister Walter Rabban. Welcome, sir. Item number 2 on our agenda, the confirmation of minutes. Senator John White.
Madam President, I move that consideration of the minutes of the meeting of Wednesday, 21st July, 2021 be deferred.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. The minutes are conferred. Thank you, Senator John White. Deferred, yes. Item number 3, messages.
No messages, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Sumner. Item number 4, reports of committees. There are none. Item number 5, announcements. We have 2 announcements. The first one is the annual report of the Human Rights Commission, and that's in the name of Senator Simmons, the Junior Minister of Social Development. Lindsay Simmons, you have the floor.
Madam President, I did that last week.
Oh, gracious me. I beg your pardon. You have the annual report of the, this is, which one did you give me? Senators, I do beg your pardon. It seems these were put in the wrong. The announcements then are the audited financial statements of the Bermuda College for the year ended the 31st of March, 2020. Senator Darrow, you have the floor.
Good morning, Madam President. Madam President, I hereby present for the information of the Senate the audited financial statements of the Bermuda College for the year ended March 31st, 2020. Senators may access copies of the report on their tablets and parliamentary website.
Thank you, Senator Darrow. Second announcement is from the Ministry of Finance report, and that is in the name of Senator Ariana Hudson, the Junior Minister of Finance. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I hereby present for the information of Senate a Ministry of Finance report on issuance of new government guarantees. Senators may access a copy of the report on their tablets and or the Parliament website. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ariana Hudson. Item number 6, notices of motion. The first notice of motion is the Tourism Investment Nautilus Hotel, and that is in the name of Senator Owen Darrow, Junior Minister for the Cabinet Office and Tourism. Senator Darrow, you have the floor.
One second, Madam President.
No problem.
Madam President, I hereby present for the consideration of the Senate the draft order entitled the Tourism Investment Order 2021, proposed to be made by the Minister responsible for tourism with the written agreement of the Minister of Finance under the provisions of Section 5 of the Tourism Investment Act 2017. And I give notice that at a later point in the meeting, I will move that the said draft order be approved.
Thank you, Senator Darrow. The second is the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extension number 4 order, and that's in the name of Senator Ariana Hudson, Junior Minister for Health. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I hereby present for the consideration of Senate the draft order entitled the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extension number 4 Order 2021, proposed to be made by the Minister responsible for health under the provisions of Section 107A of the Public Health Act 1949. and I give notice that at a later point in the meeting, I will move that the said draft order be approved.
Thank you, Senator Hartson.
Thank you, Madam President.
Item number 7, petitions, there are none. Item number 8, statements, there are none. Item number 9, introduction of bills, there are none. Item number 10, the first reading of public bills. The following public bill has been received from the Honorable House of Assembly and is now read for the first time. And its title is the Financial Assistance Amendment and Validation Act 2021. Item number 11, the first reading of private bills. There are none. Item number 12, question and question period. We will have oral answers to parliamentary questions submitted by Senator Smith and Senator the Honorable Dr. E.G.V. Peets, Minister of Youth and Culture and Sport. You have the floor.
Good morning, Madam President.
Good morning.
We have 3 questions that were submitted for oral response. If it is customary for me to read the question, then the answer, I will go ahead and proceed.
Yes. Well, all right, it's just I will read the question and then you will prepare the answer. The first question from Senator Ben Smith is, would the Honorable Minister please inform the Senate as to whether the Board of Trustees at the National Sports Center authorized the chairman to enter into a loan agreement with HSBC for the project awarded to Atlantic Energy Solutions, and if so, the date on which the trustees gave the authorization?
Thank you, Madam President. The response to said question, the National Sports Center Board of Trustees agreed to accept the HSBC financing and terms at its meeting dated May 20th, 2021.
Thank you. Is there a response? Supplementary questions, Senator Ben Smith?
Yes, thank you, and good morning, Madam President. Madam President, in light of the public information that's come out over the last couple of weeks about this particular subject, specifically some of it saying that there were members of the Board of Trustees that disagreed with this contract being approved.
Point of order, Madam President.
Senator Darrow, what is your point of order?
Is the senator posing a question or is he giving a speech? I'm not sure.
Senator Smith, will you phrase your comment on the question? If you're allowed 2 supplementary questions.
Yes, I was framing my question. So, Madam President, can the minister please let us know whether he would be willing to table the minutes and correspondence regarding this contract from the moment of it being accepted in 2018 to date, so that we can get clarity on all of the issues that have been made public in the last couple of weeks?
Senator Peets?
Is there a second supplementary question?
Senator Ben Smith, do you have a second supplementary?
I'll answer both.
Yes, Madam President. So my second supplementary will be on this being approved. Was this the original contract that had been approved in 2018 that is now being approved in 2021? And if that is different, please explain why it did not go back to tender.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you, Madam President. The reply to the first question, which was would the minister be minded to table the minutes from May 20th, or the minutes, I would imagine, surrounding this particular decision. I have made no such decision at this time, but I will certainly take that under advisement If needed or if directed in due course, I can certainly table said minutes. Regarding the second supplementary question on whether or not this was the original contract, if the question is in relation to the contract with ASG, the ASG has always been the contractor for this particular project, and there's been no indication or change in that particular contract. What the senator may be referring to may be the details of the financing of said contract. The information that I have this morning is that there is a difference in the financing model for this particular project as originally proposed and what has been approved.
Thank you, Senator. Do you have, would any other senator care to give supplementary? Senator Jones?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Madam
Good
President. Good morning to my colleagues. Following up on the original question that was asked, would the minister explain to us government policy that dictates, by what we've seen, not only in the public domain, but in practice, that if significant terms of a contract is changed, that under normal circumstances, this particular project will be put out to tender? Can the minister give clarity on precedent and practices within that ministry and in the government overall up to this point?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry.
In response to Senator Jones's supplementary question, I can't speak for the overall practice for the civil service and for the government. I can say in this particular circumstance, the contract was not put out for tender. The financing arrangements were vetted by the Ministry of Finance, and it was supported by the AG's chambers as well as the Ministry of Youth, Culture, and Sport. So in this particular instance, there was no re-tendering of the project.
Thank you, Dr. Leeds. Senator Jones, do you have a second supplementary? Would any other senator care to ask a supplementary question? Senator Tucker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning to everyone in the Senate and to the listening audience. My question is more so around the response given. The specific question was whether the chairman was authorized to enter into the loan agreement with HSBC. So I'm wondering if the minister can expressly say yes, or was it another party that entered into the loan agreement? And my second question is, was approval authorizing, if it was the chairman, to enter into the loan agreement given on the day of the actual meeting of the board with not less than 4 trustees present, which would have formed a quorum? Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Robin Tucker.
Madam President, I was taking some notes so I can sort of better understand the senator's question. And if I fail to answer the question appropriately, I certainly do apologize. I can try to repeat what I think I heard. The first question I think Senator was referring to was whether or not the chairman was approved to sign off on the loan agreement, if I understand the question correctly. And I believe the second supplementary question had to do with a quorum for approval. In reverse order, Madam President, the information that I can report to this honorable chamber is that there was a quorum and a decision was reached by the board on the 20th of May regarding this particular contract. Regarding the supplementary question regarding was the chairman allowed or permitted to sign off on that? The information that I have, Madam President, is that based on the contract that was given to the NSC, that particular contract required at least 2 board members to sign off on that particular contract.
Thank you, Senator Peets. Any other supplementary questions from any others? You've had your 2. Yes, just going to tell you that. Then we'll move on to the question number 2, which is, would the Honorable Minister please inform the Senate as to who signed the loan agreement with HSBC on behalf of the Board of Trustees and whether they were authorized at the time of signing?
Thank you, Madam President.
Mr. Peets.
In response, the HSBC facility letter is signed by the National Sports Center Chairman and the Minister of Finance on the basis of the Board of Trustees approval dated the 20th of May, 2021, and approval from the Minister of Youth, Culture, and Sport in accordance with Section 10, subsection 3 of the National Sports Center Trustees Act.
Thank you, Senator Peets. Would any senator care to ask supplementary? Senator Ben Smith, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. So can the minister please confirm that the chair of the trustees was an authorized signatory at the time that this loan was approved by the bank?
Thank you, Senator Ben Smith. Do you have a second supplementary?
Thank you, Madam President. The supplementary question from the senator on the floor is for the minister to confirm whether or not the NSC chair was a signator on the contract. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes.
Yes, the NSC chair was a signature on the contract for this particular project.
Thank you, Minister Peets. Do you have a supplementary, Senator Ben Smith? Would any other senator care to ask supplementary questions? Senator Robin Tucker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is, given that the chairman was a signatory on the account, as Minister Peets has confirmed, was the chairman a signatory prior to the meeting, or was he given retroactive authorization?
Point of clarity. I think there may
Mr. Peets.
have been a misunderstanding. The previous question by Senator Smith and the second question by Senator doesn't seem to be the same question. So, and if I'm misunderstanding that, I certainly apologize, and I certainly want to make sure that we are clear. When I answered the first question, I was answering that question, not saying that the chairperson was a signature at the bank. That's not what I was referring to. But I think that was the question that that's on the floor from the current senator.
Senator Robin Tucker, do you
Yeah.
want to rephrase your
Is-
question?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. And I do apologize, Minister Peets. I'll clarify the question. I would like to know whether the chairman was an authorized signatory. In other words, was he authorized to enter into the agreement at the time of the meeting, or was retroactive approval given? Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Madam President. There is a clerical problem as it relates to a particular date. There is a facility letter that was signed by the chairman on the 19th. That date is actually incorrect. That is a typographical error. It should have been the 20th.
Thank you, Minister Peets. Do you have a supplementary, Senator Robin Tucker? Thank you. Would any other senator care to ask supplementary questions? Hearing none, then we'll move on to the third question, and that is, would the Honorable Minister please inform the Senate as to the financial standing of the National Sports Center to repay the loan with HSBC for the project awarded to Atlantic Energy Solutions?
Madam President, the management accounts for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2021 shows a deficit of approximately 1.7 million. The management accounts for the most recent quarter ending the 30th of June 2021 show a net loss of 20,000. The cost of electricity for the NSC would typically range somewhere between 45,000 and 50,000 per month. The monthly loan repayments for HSBC are expected to be approximately 33,700.
Thank you, Minister Peets. Would any senator care to ask a supplementary question? Senator Ben Smith, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, in light of the answer that the minister's just given regarding the finances of the National Sports Center, and also with the information that was given to the Senate earlier this year about a long-term unaudited financials for the National Sports Center, my question to the minister is, why would we go into a contract where the government is having to pay for the project when that was not the original terms of the project? If the original terms of the project was that the company was going to pay for everything up front, why would we now sign on to a contract where the government is having to pay $3 million at a time where the finances of the country are where they are and the finances of the National Sports Center are where they are?
Thank you, Senator Ben Smith. Minister Peets.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. The government is backing the loan. The government is not repaying the loan.
Supplementary.
Yes,
Senator
Madam
Ben
President.
Smith.
So who is responsible for the interest for the loan?
The interest for the loan, there has been a grant supplied by the Bermuda government in the financing deal for the NSC project to account for the loan interest, and the monies saved from Belco regarding the monthly bill will go towards repaying the loan with HSBC.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister Peets. Would any other senator care to ask a supplementary question? Senator Jones, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I first of all thank the minister for providing us with some of the expenses, the monthly expenses that the National Sports Center incurs. Could he give us an indication of the revenue that the National Sports Center receives, just to give this chamber an idea, or at least some evidence that this Quango, I guess we can call it, is able to finance this, provide financial service this debt, to give us comfort that that this NSC can actually handle its monthly payments.
Minister Peets.
I do apologize, my microphone was turned off. Right now, what we can share with a great deal of confidence is that this $3.2 million loan has a 5-year term with about 6 months of interest, which is being funded by a special grant of which I had mentioned earlier. And as I had indicated earlier, the Belco bill is north of $45,000 a month. And given the fact that that Belco bill will be drastically erased and reduced, there is financial projections that we can be comfortable that the NSC will be able to defray its cost by reducing its energy usage and consumption, and in doing so, transfer the debt that would typically go to Belco to pay off the HSBC loan. Regarding revenue projections, I don't have that information readily available with me at the moment. And if the Senate would be just minded to allow me to get that information, I would be grateful.
Thank you, Minister Peets. Senator Jones, do you have a second supplementary? You have the floor.
Yes. Thank you, Madam President. For the sake of the listening public and as a reminder to this chamber, can the minister remind us of the dates of the most recent audited financial statements that his ministry has in their possession? We recognize that the bank would have gone through the management accounts with a fine-tooth comb to ensure that these payments can be made, but we know what audited financial statements can do for us more so than what management accounts can. So can you give us the most recent year of audited financial statements that he has in his possession for this?
Madam President, earlier in this parliamentary session, the ministry presented the audited financials for the NSC, and as such, that information is in the public domain. At the moment, I still don't have readily accessible to me the monthly estimates around revenue for the NSC based on the previous question.
Thank you, Minister Peets. Would any other senator care to ask supplementary questions?
Sorry, Madam President, can I give a point of clarity?
If the minister accepts a point of clarity. Minister, do you accept a point of clarification?
Yes, Madam President.
Senator Jones, you can clarification question.
Thank you. Minister Peets, can you confirm or deny that 2016 is the most recent audited financial statements that we have on record for the NSC? I know you said it's in the public domain, but if my memory serves me correctly, 2016 was the last one. Just wanted to establish that.
Madam President, I don't have that information directly in front of me, but as I mentioned, we did table the audited financials for the NSC in this recent parliamentary session. And I would suggest anyone who's looking for specific information to access that publicly through their tablets. I can suggest to the Senate this morning regarding the previous question, revenue for the NSC on a yearly basis is somewhere around $800,000 per year.
Thank you, Minister Peets. Would any other senator seek to ask supplementary question? Senator Robin Tucker, I think you indicated you.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. My question is, I think, quite simple. Just wanting to know what assurances does the government have that they will be able to, that the Atlantic Energy Solutions will be able to meet its obligations. Certainly in the event that they default, then what will be the consequences for them, and how will government then seek to get their money?
Mr. Peets?
Yes, we're certainly very, very invested in this particular project. This project is absolutely necessary. The problem that we have, of course, is that the current Belco usage for this particular facility, which is our primary sporting facility, is something that's not sustainable. As such, the NSC has worked extremely hard to get to this point, and we wish this project would have gotten started a lot earlier. It certainly would have saved the government as well as the NSC a lot of money. So the assurances that we have regarding this particular project right now is that the funding has been secured and it's been guaranteed by the Bermuda government. There are protocols in place as well as governance issues to ensure that the project is meeting its timelines regarding the installation for this project. And the information that I have to date is that the project is on target to be completed within budget and on time.
Thank you, Minister Peets. Senator Tucker, do you have a second supplementary? You have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. So the second question is, are any of the companies that have bid on this particular project, have they had financing in place in order to carry out the project? Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. We'll await a response from Minister Peets.
Sure. The bidding process for this project took place a number of years ago, perhaps over 3 years ago. That process was very, very extensive and very, very, very thorough. ASG was awarded the contract based on the fact that it was peer reviewed and to be the best project for the NSC. At this date and at this particular time, I wouldn't be able to answer the senator's question on what were the financing models for the companies that were unsuccessful. But I can suggest and recommend to this particular Senate that this particular bidding process and the selection process for this particular operator to install this particular project was thoroughly vetted, and they were awarded the contract based on merit.
Thank you, Minister Peets. You've had your second supplementary.
May I just clarify, may I just do a point of clarification? Because I just don't feel like the question was answered accurately.
Madam
That's
President, point of order. I think the minister did answer the question the best that he could.
Thank you. Senators, that's the end of the question period for the questions that were posed, and we've dealt with all of them, so we'll move on. The next item on our orders, on the order paper, is the orders of the day, and the first order of the day is the second reading of the Development and Planning Amendment Act 2021, and that is in the name of Senator Lindsay Simmons, the Junior Minister for Home Affairs. Senator Simmons, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill entitled Development and Planning Amendment Act 2021 be now read a second time.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. Carry on, Senator Lindsay Simmons.
Madam President, I rise to introduce for the second reading the bill entitled the Development and Planning Amendment Act 2021, the bill. The purpose of this bill is to, one, give the minister the power during a national emergency to implement procedures to allow the Director of Planning to expedite the planning application assessment and permission process. Two, to provide for public consultation of an environmental impact assessment for proposed development prior to the making of a special development order. Three, to provide for development orders to be made by the negative resolution procedure rather than the affirmative resolution procedure. And four, to provide for the designation of privately owned land as a protected conservation area on written agreement with the owner of the land and to include a list of protected conservation areas. And five, to provide for the publication of procedures for emergency development orders and emergency development orders. Madam President, I must reiterate the government's commitment to introduce sustainable planning legislation, which will go further in the protecting of our delicate environment while streamlining measures to stimulate our economy, particularly our construction industry, and encouraging new investments. Madam President, the amendment being debated today focus on three key areas, which I will discuss in the order that they are addressed in this bill. Number one, emergency development orders. Number two, special development orders. And number three, protected conservation areas. Madam President, the amendment to the Development and Planning Act 1974 provides for the minister to activate on declaration of a national emergency, procedures to allow the director to expedite the processing of a planning application and approve the application to address a crisis, provided that any such decisions, while fast-tracked, must not contravene any legislation or policies, directives such as building codes. Madam President, the decision to grant such an order will only follow the declaration of national emergencies. As the amendment makes clear, a national emergency is defined by the following. Number one, a natural disaster such as hurricanes, flood, earthquake, or similar natural disaster. Number two, a public health emergency declared by the minister responsible for health under the Public Health Act 1949. Number three, proclamation of emergency made by the governor under Section 14 of the Bermuda Constitution Order 1968. Madam President, follow the declaration of an emergency, an order shall be made based on any such representation made to the minister and following consultation with the director. The granting of an order will be subject to negative resolution procedures and be advertised in the official gazette. Madam President, it bears repeating that it is not the minister who grants approval for emergency developments. To be abundantly clear, when the minister issues an emergency development order, it simply commences the process for the director to follow established and publicly accessible procedures to assess and make determinations on developments to address a national emergency. Madam President, it is important to note the same due process afforded to all other planning applications is still applied in these cases. In fact, the director or DAB is certainly afforded the option to refuse such applications if deemed appropriate to do so. Madam President, it must be reiterated that the primary basis supporting this aspect of the amendment is strictly to streamline the process where it is determined prudent to do so. Simply put, it allows review of decision-making processes to be expedited for those rare emergency situations that the island may face in the future. The procedures to be crafted will ensure the review process is not compromised and will demonstrate compliance with all regulation requirements. Madam President, I will now discuss the imputance for the amendment regarding the granting of the Special Development Orders, SDO. Through stakeholders' engagement with the development industry, concerns have continuously been expressed over the length of time it takes to issue amended Special Development Orders, SDOs. Therefore, the amendment seeks to revise the most importantly improve the current process to support greater efficiency while at the same time introducing internationally recognized standards. Madam President, with the current legislation, when SDOs are introduced or amended, the minister must wait until the House sits to table an SDO. This requirement, based on scheduling of the sitting of the Parliament, has a probability to cause significant delays, which typically equates to economic ramifications that can underline the viability of development. Madam President, in today's competitive world, Bermuda cannot afford to do business inefficiently and run the risk of losing the interest of new investment. The one thing that COVID-19 pandemic has reminded us of this, we are not immune to the consequences of international impacts. Long delays should not undermine the potential of new opportunities. It is essential that Bermuda's planning framework be aligned. Madam President, it is imperative to point out that currently no procedures exist to guide the process of either issuing or amending an SDO. In previous years, the Department of Planning have received queries on how to commence the process. Additionally, it has been the lack of procedures that has contributed to previous negative reputation of SDOs. The lack of official procedures is one key shortcoming that this amendment will address. Madam President, currently the SDO process only allows for debate and approval by the legislator. An SDO does not involve the review of the general public. The new amendments will allow for more inclusive process that will require 21 days of public consultation, which provides more value and input than any process that would ordinarily occur presently. While a curiosity review of the amendment might suggest that decisions making has been relegated to the hands of any of you, this amendment will ensure that the public is engaged, consulted, and considered in the approval of any SDO. Madam President, the amendment introduces three new key elements. Number one, an SDO proposal is advertised, allowing the 21-day public consultation review period. Number two, an environmental impact statement is mandated. And three, procedures are to be drafted to be set out to various required steps involved in the process. Madam President, these three components collectively allow for far more transparency, scrutiny, and testing to be afforded to the proposal, which reflects global best practice, which is currently not mandated here in Bermuda. Madam President, I am pleased to confirm that the required procedures are in process of being drafted and for consideration, which will ultimately be available for the public's consumption upon approval via the negative resolution process. I would like to share some information on what the procedures will detail. Madam President, first and foremost, the procedures will detail the overall process from start to finish, from applying for an SDO until the point of which it is granted. Comprehensive details will be included on the requirement of the information that must be submitted as part of the application. Such information would include, first and foremost, the necessary studies and justification provided in the form of a environmental impact statement, EIS, prepared following international guidelines. This will be accompanied by full details of the development scheme. Madam President, following the receipt of the application will be advertised along the 21-day public consultation period. Procedures will then determine the review process of the prepared scheme and accompanying supporting information in addition to all representations made for the public. Finally, following the review by technical staff, procedures will detail and how recommendations will be made to support or not support the approval. It is critical to note that such details will be publicly accessed. Madam President, I am certain that you will agree that in the drafting of these amendments, we will not sacrifice the due diligence process to ensure that the development prepares and proposals are appropriately accessed in terms of social, environmental, and economic impact. Instead, we have enhanced transparency and accountability by increasing the public engagement with the process. In fact, we are ensuring that the amendment and procedures meet the requirement of the UN Protocol Strategic Environment Assessment to the Conservation on Environment Impact Assessment in the transboundary context, which defines within the objectives of the following: contributing to the consideration of environments, including health concerns and preparation of policy legislations, establishing clear, transparent, and effective procedures for strategic environmental assessments, and providing for the public participation in strategic environmental assessments. For the information of the honorable members, this document forms part of the UK document, A Green Future, our 25-year plan improves the environment, and can be found under Annex 3, the UK's international agreement to protect or improve the environment. Madam President, I now turn your attention to the introduction of the concept of protecting conservation areas. The aim of this amendment is to offer heightened protection with respect to the specifically protected class upon which it is believed development should not be considered. A list of areas falling within this protected class shall be referenced in the Amendment Act. Such areas which are subjected to landowners' agreement may include areas of high ecological value such as nature reserves, actively cultivated arable land, significantly sized swath of woodland, areas supporting valuable historic and or cultural assets. Madam President, it is key to understand that the development plan is policy that is created via the Development Plan Act 1974. This amendment will ensure that these areas, once protected, are enshrined in law and can only be removed by legislation via the affirmative resolution process. Therefore, despite the cynical changes to development plans, these protected areas will stay just that, protected. Madam President, I wish to inform this honorable house that landowners have already expressed interest and commitment to have their land added to the list. These landowners recognize the added value to having such a area afforded great added values having such areas afforded greater levels of protection. Madam President, I must also point out that the provisions of enabling areas of particular value to be protected can be utilized as additional planning tools in the future negotiations of new development projects. As in other jurisdictions, planners employed negotiation techniques to ensure positive planning benefits in exchange for supporting development process proposals. In effect, through this amendment, we can secure at a more sustainable level of environment benefits for the country at large. Madam President, some have asked why the amendment to protect certain conservation areas is important. They have claimed that there is adequate protection in the zoning of the land under the development plan process. Whilst it is true that the development plan involves establishing a zoning for land, these zonings are vulnerable to change and either by recurrent development plans review process, commonly referred to as zoning and objection process, or via approvals for development grant on appeal for the minister. I must point out that this amendment offers the same protection to privately owned lands that Bermuda National Parks Act 1986 affords zoning natural reserves and parks that are public lands. Madam President, it has been alleged that the introduction of conservation areas weakens the level of protection afforded via the existing zoning system by the Bermuda Plan 2018. Additionally, it claims that the introduction of protection conservation areas infers that the area already zoned for conservation are somehow more available for development than originally intended. This is untrue. I would cite an example of the Bermuda National Act 1986, which protects zones, nature reserve, and parks that are public land. Madam President, in summary, the proposed amendment to the Act form a key element of streamlining measures originally announced in May 2019 to bring greater efficiency to the Department of Planning process and serve delivery to the public, and ultimately to provide a conducive regulatory framework to support new investments while protecting our environmental assets. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Lindsay Simmons, Junior Minister for Home Affairs. Would any senator care to speak on this bill? Senator John White, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I have mixed views on certain parts of this legislation. I think to evaluate this legislation, one needs first to remember that the Bermuda Plan 2018 was developed to create a comprehensive framework to manage Bermuda's natural resources. We are a tiny island of only 26 square miles, so we need to be thoughtful around how we look forward to the future to balance the needs of maintaining Bermuda's natural resources against the desires of developers, with special emphasis around potential development that doesn't strictly comply with the Bermuda Plan 2018. The Bermuda Plan was not only comprehensive, but the process by government was done with much input from all stakeholders, including public consultation over a period of years. We need to ensure that this or any other legislation preserves the great work created in this plan. To be clear, the current process has certain checks and balances, which I happen to like. If parliamentarians don't view a special development order as being in Bermuda's best interests, they can vote against it. SDOs were created to permit potential developments that do not comply with the Bermuda Plan 2018. We thus must be very careful around how this process under the proposed bill will work. Under this bill, there will no longer be the checks and balances for parliamentarians to debate and vote on. This gets replaced by public consultation, but only required if the proposed development requires an environmental impact assessment, which is discretionary, I believe. What is absolutely critical for me under this bill is how it will actually work in practice. Will there be proper input and feedback obtained from diverse parties, perhaps some who will be in favor and others not in favor, as part of the consultative process? In conclusion, if proper governance and sound judgment is exercised with each and every SDO, I believe the process should work in the best interest of Bermuda. But does this legislation do everything it can and should do to ensure that? I'm not convinced of. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator John White. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill? Senator Robin Tucker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to start my comments concurring with my fellow Senator White. I think that this bill has a lot of positives, and certainly there are parts of it that will increase protections for the environment and streamline the planning process, which is part of what it is intended to do. In addition to a couple of things that Senator White just mentioned, I would also like to add that I have a particular concern as it relates to shifting the shifting from the affirmative resolution process to the negative. Maintaining the affirmative resolution process helps to ensure that there is transparency and accountability. As Senator White just mentioned, we are only a very small island with limited land mass. And it is incumbent on us to make sure that specifically all of the checks and balances, as was mentioned, are in place. While having a negative resolution process will undoubtedly speed up approvals or denials, if that is what will be. However, haste does not always equate to doing what's best. And so, especially when we have a requirement to protect what land space we do have, that we must, as has been said in so many different arenas, measure twice, cut once, and ensuring that any requests go to Parliament for scrutiny, that come through this House, then with so many different eyes on what is being required, with an opportunity to be able to discuss what is being asked by developers and being able to weigh out during a healthy debate can only prove to be beneficial to the country. So I think that retaining that affirmative resolution procedure is very important. Thank you, Madam President. That's all I wish to say at this time.
Thank you, Senator Robin Tucker. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill? Senator Ben Smith, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd just like to follow on with the comments that have come from the previous two senators. The issue that I see presently is that we have checks and balances that are in place today, and this bill seems to be adding, right? You're getting more scrutiny by allowing consultation from the public. And I applaud that. I think it's actually a really good initiative. It allows for us to make sure that when we're making the decisions, we're making decisions in the best interests of the entire community. The part that's odd is to take out that checks and balance that's there presently in order to do this. And the reason I say that is because we have had projects that have happened in Bermuda over several administrations that have been controversial. And there are times that the public is really against a certain project happening, but the project goes through anyway. So the question that I have is, if we get into a situation where a project is having severe resistance by the public, but it's being pushed through anyway, there isn't an opportunity now for the checks and balances that are in place today to try to slow the process down and have people think maybe a little, maybe there's something that can be changed. Maybe there's something that can be done a little bit differently. And that's done by giving the scrutiny opportunity from Parliament. The example that's given is that that slows the process down. But as the previous senators are saying, once you've made significant adjustments to the environment, you can't take them back. So we have sites in Bermuda now that have been changed significantly that are not doing what they were intended to do, and we can't go back and fix it and turn it back to the environment it was. That ship has sailed. So we have to make sure that we have the opportunity to pay attention to those details, listen, and sometimes slow things down when it's necessary. But let's look at the opportunity of it being efficient. The premier of the day can call the House of Assembly in for a special sitting to deal with whatever the situation is. So this idea that it won't be able to fit in and it's going to slow down because of that scheduling doesn't make any sense. The session of the House of Assembly last week was something that was brought up late in the day. Today, we are meeting in the Senate on a Monday instead of a Wednesday. We can make the adjustments if it is in the best interest of the population. And in this case, it seems odd to me that we would be taking away scrutiny, that we would be taking away the ability for the House of Assembly and the Senate to go through the final checks and balances and make sure that what we're doing is going through that second measurement before we cut. Because both senators before me have said this is a very tiny island. And the decisions that are made in a lot of cases, and let's be honest, the decision making to drive in this direction is going to be based off of finances. It's going to be based off of somebody saying that this is what they're going to do and it's going to bring a certain amount of money into the country. But only if the project works. Because remember, a lot of times that private industry is going to be doing things in the best interest of their pocket. That's why they want to get rid of the scrutiny. That's why they want to move us out of it. So we have to be careful that we're not giving them that advantage. Because sometimes we need to pause and realize maybe that isn't in the best interest of everybody in Bermuda. Maybe that is not in the best interest of our community. Because, Madam President, we won't be able to go back once we make a mistake. And there have been mistakes made in the past by multiple administrations. In the debate in another place, a lot of those specific instances were brought up. Don't make the same mistake again. Put us in a situation where we have the opportunity to maybe say that isn't the right thing that we should be doing. The population isn't for it. There are things that need to be changed in this particular development. Why are we going outside of the plan that everybody has spent so much time and energy creating for us? Is it specifically just for this particular group to make maximum money? Madam President, I believe that we should keep it as affirmative and not negative. I believe that is in the best interest of the population. We are adding scrutiny in this bill, so let's keep the scrutiny that is already there. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ben Smith. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill? Senator Michelle Simmons, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, I would like to start by thanking the permanent secretary in this ministry, Ms. Rosie Azar, and planning officer Victoria Pereira for meeting with the independent senators and giving us an extremely informative briefing last week. I'll start by saying there are several positive aspects associated with this amendment bill, and I'm sure my fellow senators who have already spoken have acknowledged them. But I'd just like to reiterate that it is prudent to give the minister power during a national emergency, and that is clearly defined, to expedite the planning application process. And there are some wonderful examples that can be called to mind of late in which emergency procedures had to be enacted in countries overseas when COVID struck. And some countries actually had to build additional hospitals and emergency shelters within days. I don't know what their processes are for getting permission to go ahead with those kinds of developments, but I would imagine that they don't have some of the onerous restrictions that we have. It would not have happened here in Bermuda that way. We've all heard the complaints from members of the public about the planning process and how sometimes it can take ages to get things approved. I'm not saying that the processes are without merit, but sometimes we need to look at what we're trying to achieve in order to make sure that we are really trying to do what's in the best interest of the community as a whole. So I think the giving the minister that power during a national emergency is good. Then, with regard to special development orders, I was really pleased to hear that there would be statutory regulations to support this bill. So that means they cannot be circumvented. It's now required that there has to be an environmental impact study commissioned by the developer, not by government, and that there will be public consultation of that environmental impact assessment. Also, the regulations I mentioned a minute ago will also require those public servants who are involved in this process to follow a process for looking at public consultation and following up. All this is really, really good. So I think that this bill, this part of the bill, really brings the public into the process far more than they have been brought in before. In fact, I think there's been limited consultation over SDOs, leading to some unfortunate situations. The biggest hurdle for most of us is the negative resolution aspect of the change to this, to the original bill. And I must admit, I have wrestled with it, and I still am not feeling very secure about letting go of this level of scrutiny, i.e., having to table an SDO in Parliament before approval is given. That has caused me to lose a little bit of sleep, but I am concerned that we shouldn't be increasing scrutiny in one area and then diminishing it in the other. So with those remarks, Madam President, I will end my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Michelle Simmons. Would any other senator care to speak? Senator Jones, you have the floor. Marcus Jones.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, as I've listened very intently to my fellow senators discuss this particular legislation, I could not help but hear the words coming, I believe, from all senators, and that's consultation, ensuring that sufficient consultation has actually been utilized, maximized to ensure that our limited natural resources are protected. Now, one of the things that this amendment does stipulate is for at minimum a 21-day consultation period. Now, Madam President, you will know that throughout my time in this particular chamber, I've always had issues with the framework of consultation for any particular piece of legislation. I've really felt that there needs to be a beefed up, well stipulated, well thought out consultation process that doesn't change based on the ministry, doesn't change based on the particular legislation that comes across our desks. But having said that, Madam President, I also believe that this amendment is missing something very important as part of the scrutiny process of having a special development order passed. I recognize and can see why the minister has wanted to take away the negative resolution portion and make it affirmative. I agree with my colleagues that I always get that confused. To keep the affirmative resolution in there because of the quite valuable piece of scrutiny that's allowed for Parliament to debate and discuss one of our most important resources, which is land, especially when you talk about conservation, land that's been zoned conservation, woodland. Those tracts of land are very important. So because they're so important, one can see the importance of this country's parliamentarians debating it, discussing it, to ensure that we've done everything that we can to preserve the land. Now, one would suggest that whenever one of these special development orders are put before the planning department, that it be mandated within the amendment that an environmental impact assessment be done for every one of them. Now, some may say that it may be cumbersome, it may be time consuming, but Madam President, I do believe it is a layer of scrutiny, a layer of study work that can be done to ensure that we have done all we can to preserve the land that we have. So based on those short words, Madam President, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Senator Jones. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill? Senator Owen Darrow, you have the floor.
Madam President, first of all, I'd like to just say that I do support this amendment brought forth by the junior minister. And it's very interesting to hear some of the One Bermuda Alliance senators speak so fondly of a special development order all of a sudden. Let's just say that a special development order, SDU, have for a long time in this country gotten a bad rap. The former PLP governments have been accused of giving them out too freely in the past. As another senator said earlier, there are many examples of SDOs that may not have been properly consulted with the public or deals gone bad. But with this amendment, it actually gives the board a little more power. Because right now, it's my understanding that the DAB has very little powers. There are tons and tons of appeals that come in for all sorts of developments. And the only individual that has kind of oversight on that right now is the minister. Also, I want to talk a bit about this word, the consultation that keeps coming up. There is consultation, a requirement of public consultation that is put in this amendment. And with this act, parliamentary scrutiny will not be erased. But I just want to go back and give a very brief history lesson where I actually don't have to go that far back. A previous government, the one before 2017, immediately, had two particular acts that they put in place to actually bypass and circumvent the STO process. And I'll remind you of those. One was the Morgan's Point Act, and the second was actually the St. Regis Act. And with the St. Regis Act, there was no consultation with the people of St. George. We still have an issue now with St. George being a World Heritage Site, and I think it's UNESCO is upset with Bermuda for actually circumventing that process. So we can sit here all day and talk about lack of consultation, but it was the previous government that went to great lengths to create two acts that went against the standard SDO process. And I'd also like to remind you that if you go up to Morgan's Point now, there's not much going on up there, but there's a main roadway that was put in the plan to go right through arable land. And it's still there. It's ridiculous. So I think that it's not a matter of speed when we talk about making this process better. It's a matter of efficiency. And as Senator said, absolutely, we cannot take back when a wrong decision is made. So I do believe that there are some key elements in this amendment that actually gives some power back to the board. Parliamentary scrutiny is not erased. And I don't think that we need to be worried about lack of public consultation in this part, as it is in here. And I know that this government will be committed to going through the processes that are laid out in this amendment. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Darrell. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill?
Madam President.
Minister Peets, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I think it's important for this chambers as well as the listening public to know that the minister, the permanent secretary, the director, all the individuals who are responsible for bringing this particular amendment before us, the fact that Bermuda is 26 square miles has not been lost on them. Actually, the reason why this particular amendment is important is the fact that Bermuda is 26 square miles. We know every square inch of this island, and we certainly want to do everything we can to protect it. You know, one of the things that was important to me, particularly when I had the opportunity to see the brief for this particular bill and have it presented by the PS as well as the director. This bill is trying to address a fundamental issue that the COVID pandemic has brought upon our shores as well as the shores around the world, and that is to be responsive. And this particular Amendment Act is responsive. It sets out in the act quite clearly that the direction for this particular amendment is to grant emergency development powers in response to national emergencies, and we cannot lose sight of that. I've gone over this act. I've had this act explained to me, and in my opinion, Madam President, it retains protection while also adding the necessary expediency wherever needed or necessary. There are benefits in this particular act, as the junior minister has already communicated. I don't need to remind this particular chambers that the minister did communicate the benefits of this particular act and the aims of this act in another house, and did so quite well. So we are very, very supportive of this particular amendment. The technical officers who are responsible for implementing this are excited about this amendment and believe that this amendment is in the best interest of all 26 square miles. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Peets. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill? No, then I would just make a brief comment too, and that is to thank the Permanent Secretary, Rosie Azar, and the Director of Planning, Victoria Pereira. The two of them spent some time with the independent senators going through this bill and the rationalization for implementing it. And I was struck, having been in the Senate for a number of years, it's 11 or 12 now, and I was involved in some of the previous SDOs, and I particularly remember the SDO for Tuckers Point. And I know at that time, there was a hue and cry, and several thousand people walked through that property to try to salvage and to save some of Bermuda's lands. But even reflecting on that, having listened and having talked to the Permanent Secretary and the Director, I was impressed with the fact that the Director, Victoria Pereira, is a Bermuda who's been in that department for 18 years. And I was quite impressed and reassured by her commitment to Bermuda and really to save. She indicated to us that she was a committed Bermudian working in the planning department, and she will ensure that our Bermuda, in terms of our all the areas that need to be saved on this island, will be done so under her directorship. So I just wanted to say that I was impressed with it, and I think I had many of my concerns and questions answered during that particular presentation. There are some questions that have been posed to you, Senator, and I will just hand over to you, Senator Lindsay Simmons, to respond to some of the concerns that have been raised.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, the Principal St. Regis Act that was passed was used with the existing SDO process. The administration took this path without including any consultation with the public. The people of St. George's had no say. The OBA also did not allow the advice of the technical officers to take under consideration the sensitiveness of the World Heritage Site. This issue still exists. They were bypassing the existing SDO process, used the legislation process, and disregarded zoning issues as well. Same with Morgan's Point Act. They also bypassed this by using the existing SDO process. The OBA administration took this path without including any consultation with the public. There was no public consultation for the people to see. The OBA also did not follow the advice of the technical officers for this project as well. They did not take into consideration the sensitive matters related to Morgan's Point. They have also used legislation acts to bypass existing SDO processes, use the legislation process to disregard zoning issues. The Department of Planning are raising the threshold for sustainable development, also the process related to the SDOs, adding international standards to the process. We are creating a new and more improved protected class for special areas of land. We are making the SDO process more transparent, requiring more public involvement, the requirement of the impact assessment. There will be more public involvement in the development process, which is important. Let us not also forget the Airport Development Act that caused protests for many Bermudians, no regard for the public opinion. And when it comes to the negative resolution, this still has to be laid in the House. And if a member wishes to debate it, and it is agreed upon, it will still be debated. So parliamentary scrutiny is not being erased, and the SDO can still be voted on. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator Simmons, you will now move on to the make a
Thank
motion.
you. Madam President, I move that the bill,
Second. Yes, carry on, sorry.
I'm sorry. Madam President, I move that the bill entitled Development and Planning Amendment Act 2021 be now read a second time.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. Carry on, Senator Lindsey Simmons.
Madam President, I move that Rule 26 be suspended in respect to this bill.
Is there any objection to that motion? Senator Ben Smith?
Yes, Madam President. I'd like to see if we could get this to go to committee.
For what?
Second objection.
To amend the negative resolution.
You haven't presented the amendment to the,
Or
to
can
the
we
Senate.
discuss it in committee? Because we.
If you
the
move, if
vote-
you want to
vote-
go
vote
into
by
committee, then
clause.
yes. Senator Lindsey Simmons, you would have to make a motion to, there is on the floor 2 senators who've asked to move into committee. What is, if you can move the motion that we can, that the-
or I have to?
Yes, because we need to go to committee.
we would have to go into committee. Generally speaking, the Senate doesn't usually go on into committee for every bill. However, if there is objections, if there is a request on the floor to move into committee to discuss something, then yes,
Is there a vote for the,
we can determine a vote. There are 2. You can move the motion and then we can vote on it, whether we move.
Just move that Senate resolve itself.
Madam President, I move that the Senate do not resolve itself into committee of the whole for further consideration of the bill.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. There's no objection. Why? You made the motion, and I've asked whether, is there any
We object,
objection
yeah.
to the motion?
to go into committee?
Mhm.
Object.
Object.
There's 2 objections.
3, I object.
So the clerk will take a vote of all senators with respect to whether or not the Senate will go into committee on this bill.
Point of clarification, Madam President. Can this chamber get some understanding of how a request to go into committee can then be voted against? We've never been here before. And I know I need some clarity. So if Madam President can point the section and clause within the standing orders that substantiates that decision, I'd appreciate it.
Senator Jones, it was a motion on the floor. And because it is a motion, senators can vote on the motion. So that is the answer to the question you've raised. So there is a motion on the floor to go into committee, and there is objection. And so what the clerk would need to do is to take a vote on the motion as to whether or not the Senate will go into committee. So that's what I've asked him to do.
So can I then ask, so it's quite possible that the government with the majority of numbers can refuse to go into committee for every piece of legislation that comes across this chamber? Is that in theory a possibility?
It is if it's a motion on the floor. Generally speaking, the House goes into committee on the other place I'm talking about, goes into committee on every bill. The Senate does not. So because of that, there was a motion that was put on the floor that we go into committee. And because it is a motion, we would need to take a vote on. There is objection. And so I've asked. Yeah, I know. So there is a motion on the floor. There is going to be, I've asked Clark to, because this is a motion, we will vote on this motion as to whether or not we will go into committee, because this is generally not what the Senate usually does.
Okay, Senators, we have a motion before us for resolution into committee of the whole. So those who are opposed will vote nay, and those who are in favor will vote yay, I guess. So,
Just clarity, so yay is to go to committee.
um, the motion is to resolve into committee. So those voting yay will want to move into committee. Those voting nay do not want to move into committee. Okay? So let's begin. Senator Smith?
Yay.
Senator Smith, yay. Senator Tucker?
Yay.
Senator Tucker, yay. Senator Jones?
Yay.
Senator Jones, yay. Senator Peets?
Nay.
Senator Peets, nay. Senator Darrell?
Nay.
Senator Darrell, nay. Senator Hodgson?
Nay.
Senator Hudson, nay. Senator Richardson?
Nay.
Senator Richardson, nay. Senator Lindsey Simmons?
Nay.
Senator Lindsey Simmons, nay. Senator White?
Yay, yay.
Senator White, yay. Senator Michelle Simmons?
Nay.
Senator Michelle Simmons, nay. Madam President? Madam President, nay. Okay. That's four. So the motion to resolve into committee is defeated. Madam President?
Yes. The motion to move into committee is defeated 7-4. So Senator Lindsey Simmons, you will continue.
Madam President, I move that Rule 26 be suspended in respect to this bill.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. Carry on, Senator.
Madam President, I move that the bill entitled Development and Planning Amendment Act 2021 be now read a third time.
Is there any objection to the third reading? No objection. Carry on, Senator Simmons.
Madam President, I move that the bill do now pass.
It has been moved that the bill do now pass. Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. The bill is passed. Thank you, Senator Simmons, and thank you all senators. We will now move on to the second order of the day, and that is the Public Treasury Administration and Payments Amendment and Validation Act 2021, and that's in the name of Senator Ariana Hudson, the Junior Minister for Finance. Senator Hudson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill entitled the Public Treasury Administration and Payments Amendment and Validation Act 2021 be now read a second time.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. Carry on, Senator Hudson.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, this government wishes this honorable House to now give consideration to the bill entitled the Public Treasury Administration and Payments Amendments and Validation Act 2021. Madam President, on March 12, 2020, the World Health Organization categorized the COVID-19 outbreak as a pandemic, less than 3 months after first reporting an unusual cluster of severe pneumonia cases in China that only hinted at a possible new disease. Cases and deaths had rapidly grown to over 120,000 and 4,600 respectively, and little was known aside from evidence that large gatherings played a key role in the rapid spread of the virus. Madam President, less than 1 week later, on March 18, 2020, the Bermuda government announced that the first diagnosed cases of COVID-19 had been confirmed in Bermuda. Madam President, without any pharmaceutical agents known to be safe and effective against COVID-19, most governments around the world were left no choice but to impose non-pharmaceutical interventions to reduce transmission of the virus and mitigate risks to public health. These included bans on public gatherings, mandatory stay-at-home policies, closures of schools and non-essential businesses, and in some cases like Bermuda, restrictions or complete closures of borders. While these proved effective in reducing transmission, their impact on many economies has been severe. Madam President, as previously mentioned, the impact of the pandemic has been felt differently by individuals depending on their circumstances, most notably those without the ability to earn income working from home. No doubt, Madam President, the impact of this pandemic has been profound on all of us, but I ask the members of this House to consider the impact on individuals who are deprived of the ability to earn income to provide for their family units. In this age of always on, always connected smartphones, mobile devices, and computers, at times we may momentarily lose sight of and potentially take for granted the fact that many of our essential activities depend on human interaction with individuals that can only deliver their services face to face. For many in Bermuda, in addition to dealing with actual or potential health challenges, they face the struggle to even take care of their basic needs due to no or significantly reduced income. It was clear that the government needed to provide financial assistance to those individuals most impacted by restrictions on movements and thus their ability to provide for their families. The disruption of COVID-19 has been experienced and felt by all, but in a manner that is not equitable and is not balanced. The UEB represents this government's best efforts to ensure that the impact of the necessary public health imperatives to keep our collective society safe was more balanced, especially for those who were forced to sacrifice their ability to earn income for the greater good of all. Madam President, the government therefore in very short order drafted regulations to provide an emergency and temporary unemployment benefit program, a first of any kind in Bermuda. Further, as the fast-paced pandemic evolved and outbreaks occurred in Bermuda, the government was committed to extend or reintroduce support as necessary, which resulted in several amendments to the regulations to authorize payments. Madam President, as members will be aware, the demand for the UEB was overwhelming and substantial, with over 10,000 persons applying for initial support and more than 6,500 reapplying for continued benefits under various amended regulations. Because of the critical nature of ensuring that funding was provided to these vulnerable persons on a timely basis, initially at the onset of the first shelter-in-place order, there were instances in which there was insufficient time for the unemployment benefit applications to be completed within the full review and approval process prior to making payments. Madam President, there is therefore a need to validate any such payment made under any of the unemployment benefit regulations to an eligible person without prior approval as required by the relevant UEB regulations. During the initial UEB, the Department of Workforce Development formally approved 3,300 applications, having vetted them in accordance with the regulations. During the second phase, all 5,833 applications that have received benefits were fully vetted and approved in advance of payment. Madam President, due to fast-moving developments, including rapid changes of infection rates on the island, it is also necessary to also validate all instances in which extensions were made to the payment of UEB. Some payments were made prior to the extension of their relative regulations due to timing differences between when amendments could be gazetted and when individuals were expecting and relying on their next benefit payment to help provide for their families. From January 6th to March 23rd, 357 payments were made for a total of $516,065. Payments for $73,000 were made to individuals who were under mandatory medical quarantine without pay from their employers, and 267 payments for $443,000 were made to individuals whose income was directly impacted by the restrictions on bars and indoor dining. Lastly, Madam President, there were also instances in which some recipients of the UEB benefit received more funds than their legislated entitlement. In most cases, this was due to individuals or their employers not advising on a timely basis that they had returned to work as required under the regulations. Some recipients have already returned these funds, while others, whether or not they were aware, have not and therefore still owe the government. Madam President, I would like to take a moment to explain how the overwhelming majority of the situations occurred by walking through an actual example. One individual was eligible for benefits beginning March 24th, 2020, the effective date of the regulations, and ending May 25th when they returned to work. This is a period of 9 weeks, meaning he was eligible for a total benefit of $4,500. However, Madam President, while he went back to work on the 25th of May, he did not inform the government, contrary to the requirements in the regulations, until late in June. Therefore, on June 10th, he was paid an additional bi-weekly payment of $1,000, which represents money he received while working and earning normal income while not informing the government. This scenario represents the vast majority of funds outstanding. It is the government's intention to inform all individuals with outstanding balances of this nature and pursue the recovery of amounts directly from respective recipients. To this end, the Ministry of Finance has formally commenced this recovery effort and sent emails to 2,075 individuals that represent an aggregate 2.6 million of the 3 million that is outstanding. While initial attempts will be pursued directly with the individuals, where appropriate and as needed, the government will engage with employers in our effort to return funds to the public purse. It should be noted that several individuals, and in a few instances companies on behalf of their employees, proactively returned funds they knew were more than the benefit entitlements in advance of the government's formal recovery efforts. The expectation is that all individuals and all companies that are informed will follow these examples of responsible citizenship and swiftly return funds. Madam President, it is important to reemphasize that the COVID-19 pandemic was not something most countries were sufficiently prepared for. When the Bermuda government was faced with having to ensure its citizens were able to support themselves and their families due to the financial impact of public health measures, it was operating in new territory and without the luxury of time. Madam President, as I mentioned previously, it was a time when saving lives had to take precedence over rigid adherence to rules of best practices for the greater good. Notwithstanding that predicament, sufficient processes were followed and amended to ensure that the actions contemplated by this bill are to validate eligible payments and assist the recovery of any amounts outstanding to the government. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Ariana Hudson. Would any senator care to speak on this bill? Senator Jones, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to thank the junior minister for bringing this legislation before this chamber today. I surely can appreciate the work that the government did under much stress and in the midst of a major natural disaster that we've been through, to put a system in place to help and assist those in our community that were in dire straits financially. So we do appreciate that, and we thank the government and the civil servants that had to make that happen virtually overnight. Having said that, we surely do encourage the government to have a strict and robust regime in place to ensure that payments in the future will not be done in error. Ensure that those that were paid when they should not have been paid, that money is recouped. Because we have to constantly remind ourselves that this is the people's purse. It's not an individual. It's what the joint efforts of a country does to provide, shall we say, a safety net for its fellow citizens. And I believe that most of us in this room, around this island, would applaud what was done, but would reiterate that the regime should be in place to ensure that that does not repeat itself. One thing that I did take note of as well is, and I believe the junior minister may have mentioned it in her brief, but I believe it's worth repeating, and that is if the government department is also in direct contact with the employers who would know if these employees had returned to work. A lot of the confusion could have been cleared up as well. So if there are short words, Madam President, we are in support of this legislation, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Senator Jones. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill? Hearing none, then Senator Hudson, it's over to you.
Thank you, Madam President. I was seeking some clarity on whether or not we're directly reaching out to the employers, and I can get that information to you, Senator Jones. Is that suitable? I can move forward.
Yes, you carry on.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill entitled the Public Treasury Administration and Payments Amendment and Validation Act 2021 be now read a second time.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that Rule 26 be suspended in respect of this bill.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill entitled the Public Treasury Administration and Payments Amendment and Validation Act 2021 be now read a third time.
Is there any objection to the third reading? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill do now pass.
It has been moved that the bill entitled the Public Treasury Administration and Payments Amendment and the Validation Act 2021 do not pass. Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. The bill is passed. Thank you, Senator Ariana
Thank you,
Hudson.
Madam President.
We'll now move on to the next item on the orders of the day, and that is items that may be considered under provision Standing Order 25, and that is the second reading of the Financial Assistance Amendment and Validation Act 2021, and that is also in the name of Senator Ariana Hudson, Junior Minister for Labor. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the provisions of Standing Order 25 be granted so that the Senate may now proceed with the second reading of the bill entitled the Financial Assistance Amendment and Validation Act 2021.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. Carry on, Senator Hudson.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill entitled the Financial Assistance Amendment and Validation Act 2021 be now read a second time.
Is there any objection to the second reading? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I bring to this honorable House today the bill entitled the Financial Assistance Amendment and Validation Act 2021. This bill amends Regulation 6A of the Financial Assistance Regulations 2004 with retrospective effect and validates certain payments made under that regulation. Madam President, the purpose of this bill is to amend Regulation 6A1 of the Financial Assistance Regulations 2004 to extend the maximum duration of a financial assistance award for an able-bodied recipient from 5 years to 7 years. The amendment will also make this change retroactive, effective from April 1st, 2021, in order to validate payments made since the beginning of the 2021-2022 fiscal year. The House will recall that in accordance to Section 6A1 of the regulations, payment of an award to an able-bodied recipient shall be limited to a maximum period of 5 years, whether that period is continuous or an aggregate period made up of 2 or more awards. Madam President, the House should be advised that the 5-year term for some financial assistance clients expired on March 31st, 2021. This bill amends the regulations to extend the 5-year term to 7 years. Accordingly, a retroactive amendment to the regulations will be required to address the issue with respect to payments made since April 1st, 2021. This includes 100 persons who have received payments totaling $700,046.56. The House will recall that the mission of the Department of Financial Assistance is to assist the vulnerable Bermudians to maintain a standard of living during challenging economic times. This cashless program is designed to provide a financial stimulus to individuals and households as they navigate through economic hardships. Madam President, as of June 2021, the total number of persons on assistance was 2,306. The largest category pertained to pensioners at 1,037, followed by those with a disability at 786, then persons employed with insufficient earnings at 245. The smallest category is the able-bodied unemployment persons at 238. Although this number continues to trend upwards monthly as a result of the current labor market conditions in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. I would also like to take time to remind this House that the DFA also provides the following services to eligible persons on financial assistance: rent, nursing and rest home fees, food allowance, health insurance, disability services, Belco allowance, personal home care allowance, medical supplies and equipment, and telephone allowance. Madam President, it is expected that the effects of the pandemic will be felt for some time into the foreseeable future. This could not have been predicted at the time the 5-year term was introduced. This government remains committed to assisting and supporting every Bermudian, especially those who face challenges in getting back to gainful and meaningful employment. Therefore, we will continue to provide the necessary support, assistance, and resources needed to carry Bermudians through this unprecedented and for many unpredictable time. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Hudson. Would any senator care to speak on this bill? Senator Jones, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, I thank the junior minister for bringing this legislation before us here today. I think it's an important piece of legislation. We as a community, I believe that we're obligated to take care of those that are vulnerable and in a situation of dire straits, and extending the number of years from 5 to 7 at a time when this pandemic no one was prepared for, Madam President, makes this legislation a legislation of compassion. Having said that, Madam President, I would have been far more, shall we say, pleased if this particular legislation would have had a sunset clause to it. As much as we know that 2 years added to the standard 5 years would be helpful, I would like to think that the effects of this pandemic should not be felt 10, 20 years down the road from now. And as a means of being compassionate, but at the same time responsible with the public purse, I would like to have seen a possible clause that would turn back the terms back to 5 years, let's say in 5 years' time. I would also like to see a more vigorous regime in place to ensure that things such as soft skills, in addition to technical skills, be beefed up. I believe that we should have a system in place, even within our high schools, that train our young people to have a professional work ethic, so they know how to present themselves in an interview, know how to have a strong work ethic when they enter into the workforce. These things are important, Madam President. And the reason why I raise that is because I've been asking questions to employers. How has the hiring gone, especially within the category of food servers in restaurants? And I'm recognizing that many employers out there are having a hard time filling these positions that were once filled by expats. And one thing that I've reiterated several times in this House, having been an employer of and been manager of an establishment of over 100 staff, what I'm hearing constantly is that our employers want to hire Bermudians. They desperately want to hire Bermudians. But at the same time, they must ensure that they run a business professionally, efficiently. So we need to, in tandem with supporting those that are vulnerable, those that are in a hard place due to this pandemic, in addition to extending the time from 5 years to 7 years to allow for our fellow Bermudians to be eligible for financial assistance. We should also, on the other side, push the point that we, as those that are in a hard place, those that are trying to get back into the work force, need to be trained and have all the support at their disposal to ensure that they are employable, Madam President. So in short, I will say that it would have been great if we would have seen a sunset clause whereby this 5 years that's turned into 7 sometime within the future can be rolled back to 5. But in general, Madam President, we support this legislation. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Jones. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill? Senator Robin Tucker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Like my fellow Senator Jones, I certainly support the legislation. However, I too would like to have seen a sunset clause put into it. Of course, you know, every country, every government has an obligation to provide financial support for its citizens when they're in need. So that's a given. We already know the effects of COVID, and that there are many people struggling, able-bodied as well as those that are in the other categories that were already mentioned. However, as it relates to employers, one of the things that Senator Jones had spoken about was having spoken to employers. I've been in human resources, both in a corporate environment and in a hospitality environment, and I have seen firsthand, I have had people come to me who have had no background, no experience, bring me their financial assistance forms, having applied for corporate attorney positions. Walking in my office, just asking me to sign off on their form just to confirm that they have applied for a job. I have hired people in hospitality environments where they have shown up on day 1 and day 2, they have called back and said that, you know, that they've got another opportunity and have left. I have hired people who, again, Bermudians in hospitality environments that have been hired as wait servers and said that they don't want to work shifts and they don't want to work weekends. So I am just saying that my comments, please, I want to stress, I am not minimizing the fact that there are able-bodied persons on financial assistance. Everybody needs a hand at some point or the other. I personally have come as a young person growing up listening to my grandmother beg the electric light company man to take the lock off of the meter box because the lights were out. So I know what it's like not to have. And I certainly would not want to know that people are going without. However, I think that responsibly, any responsible government, any responsible parent will do what sometimes is unpopular and will push the envelope to ensure that people and that their children pull their own bootstraps up. And while I sincerely believe that we ought to be giving people a hand, absolutely, but it's a hand. And I believe that 7 years is quite a long time for the government to be supporting able-bodied people who are capable of having jobs. And sometimes that's going to mean that while we are navigating through our lives, that we may not be able to get the job that we are accustomed to doing. We may have to take another type of a job until we are able to get back into the environment in which we are accustomed to. I have an uncle who had, this is quite some years ago, Eastern Airlines went out of business. He was working for Eastern. He had a wife that had brain cancer, 2 children to support, and a mortgage. He had no means of income. What he did was he went to his next door neighbor. He borrowed his next door neighbor's lawnmower and drove around to go and cut people's houses, cut people's lawns. He ended up picking up dead bodies for a funeral parlor and delivering flowers for the funeral parlor. So all I am saying with that example is that, I just want to encourage people that we have to sometimes get outside of the box. But from a governmental point of view, I don't think that we are doing the best to service able-bodied people who could be working. And I think that if people in the Senate, I think we could all recognize that there are certain people, and those are the people I'm speaking about, there are certain people who just want to live off of the government and off of the system. Those are the people that I'm speaking to. And so therefore, I believe that we do need to have a cutoff point, a cutoff reassessment point, put some more of those checks and balances in place to ensure that people who are able-bodied, who can be working, are doing so. We all have heard the stories of people who have left Bermuda, who have gone to the UK and are living off of the UK. My concern is that we don't turn into a local UK where people are doing the very same thing here. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Tucker. Would any other senator care to speak? Senator Ben Smith, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. So, Madam President, it's always a balancing act when you're having a discussion about this specific group of people who need, and with the pandemic, the amount of people that were in need has increased significantly. So we are fully aware that that is the situation, and at no time are we saying that we should not be supporting the people that need it the most at this time. But when you look at a period of 5 years, and now it's going to be 7 years, you would think that with workforce development, they would have the opportunity to train these able-bodied people to do a job over a 5-year period. And we also know that you would have the idea that there are certain jobs that are held by work permit holders that you could train somebody for specific jobs because it's such a long period of time. The problem that I'm looking at is if someone is unemployed over a 5-year period, was there no opportunity that came up? Or is there a situation where some of the people within this group are unemployable? And it's a very tough thing to say about somebody, but it's been alluded to. There are some people that are just checking the box. They go around to different establishments, knock on the door and say, is there a job available? They have no intention of ever trying to get the job. We have to make sure that the group that we need to protect, the ones who are able-bodied that really want to work, that they're not being caught up in the same group with others that don't have that intention. So I guess the first question that I have is about that correlation with training for these able-bodied people so that they can be prepared for a job, so that we don't have somebody that's unemployed who wants a job and is willing to work over a 5-year period and now what will be a 7-year period. And my second question is, within that period, is there a reset? So if you were able to become employed, how long do you have to be employed for, if you became unemployed again, that you now start up another 5 years, 7 years? You understand what I mean? And the reason I bring that up is because of what Senator Tucker just alluded to, that there are some people that like to live off the system. And what we don't want to do is create an environment where that is enticing for people. Because the reality is that we have some parts of our population that have decided to get on that plane and go to England because they've heard the rumors that it's an easier life, that you can go over there and be supported with health care, and you can be supported with getting money, but you don't have to work. We don't want to get into a situation where that is the environment that we are creating to make people think that that is an option. And once again, it's not everybody, But there are some people that fall into that category. And we need to make sure that we are separating the ones who are able-bodied, that want to work, that are willing to train, that are willing to do what it takes for them to get a job, and the group that do not want to do that. So, Madam President, when I see the 5 to 7 years, I understand in this particular instance, but 7 years without work, I need to know that what we're doing is showing that they've done everything they can to progress towards a job, so that we don't have more people joining this line of able-bodied, unemployed, who are collecting money. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Ben Smith. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill? Hearing none, then it's over to you, Senator Hudson. Oh, I beg your pardon. Minister.
I do apologize, Madam President. I was just taking my seat. Madam President, I've had the opportunity to work in social services for the better part of maybe perhaps 2 decades. And there is a lot of conversation that we can have about the various factors on unemployment, housing, and all of the situations that have given rise to why financial assistance is so important. Obviously, this is not the opportunity to do that, nor is this the bill to do that. But one of the things I'm grateful for regarding this bill is that the government recognizes that this is a pandemic. And having said that, there are extraordinary circumstances that are at play, but also in particular, there are individuals who are at the end of their 5 years without employment and still need assistance. And without this amendment, they wouldn't be able to continue. So I'm grateful for the junior minister bringing this bill to the Senate for debate, and I asking that all senators support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Dr. E.G. Peets, for your comments. Any other senator care to speak? Hearing none, then Senator Ariana Hudson, it's over to you.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to address a few of the points made by the opposition senators. And so I did want to make it clear that the Department of Workforce Development and the Department of Financial Assistance have already partnered together to offer personal employment plans to financial assistance clients. So this is something that we're working on, and as we continue to move forward and see, the changes that are necessary or relevant, we will continue to make those changes and go forward. But I would say as a government particularly, we are committed to ensuring that our persons are ready for the workplace, and that employers have the support that they need, and that employees also have the support that they need. And that looks like a lot of different things that workforce development is exploring at this time. This initiative, the Personal Employment Plan, it will actually help Bermudians to secure gainful and meaningful employment as they, accept the assistance from the Department of Financial Assistance. The employment plans include work readiness, financial literacy, and computer literacy training, along with individual career coaching and support. To Senator Tucker's points, I also work in HR, and I've worked in the public and the private sectors, and I've hired persons with a lot of experience, and I've also hired persons with little to no experience. And even recently, in my experience and my efforts with the COVID-19 pandemic, we've seen a lot of persons have the opportunity to gainful employment, and it has been an experience that persons would have never otherwise been able to get. And so I do applaud the government for providing those opportunities for persons who were out of work, literally hiring persons every day or at least every other day. And so that is encouraging. And I've also heard from a lot of employers who have been in contact or who have worked with workforce development, and they are very pleased with the work that is being done and the training opportunities that are being afforded to our Bermudians, both young and old. I would say that I find it a bit difficult to assume that persons aim to live off the system. I would say that we are not aware of why persons are on financial assistance. We're not aware of the particular challenges. And I don't think it's enticing for anybody to have to go to the government for support for basic necessities. We do want to empower persons and address the root causes. And so in the interim, we do think it's necessary to provide the support to persons who have found themselves at the end of the 5 years in the middle of a pandemic. And so I do thank you all for the general support of this bill. Madam President, I move that the bill, sorry.
Financial assistance.
I move that the bill entitled the Financial Assistance Amendment and Validation Act 2021 be now read a second time.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that Rule 26 be suspended in respect of this bill.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Madam President, I move that the bill entitled the Financial Assistance Amendment and Validation Act 2021 be now read a third time.
Is there any objection to the third reading? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill do now pass.
It has been moved that the bill entitled the Financial Assistance Amendment and Validation Act 2021 do now pass. Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. The bill is passed. Thank you, Senator Hudson.
Thank you, Madam President.
We now move on to the next item on our agenda, and that is consideration of the draft order entitled Tourism Investment Nautilus Hotel Order, and that's in the name of Senator Owen Darrell, Minister for the Cabinet Office and Tourism. Senator Darrell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that Standing Order 71-2 be suspended so that the Senate may now proceed with the consideration of the Tourism Investment Nautilus Hotel Order 2021.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Madam President, I move that the Senate do now take under consideration the draft order entitled the Tourism Investment Nautilus Hotel Order 2021.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. Carry on, Senator Darrell.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, the purpose of this Tourism Investment Nautilus Hotel Order 2021 is to permit the grant of tax relief to the developers investing in the tourism product Nautilus Hotel Atlantic Hotel Limited, which is in the national economic interest of Bermuda. Madam President, honorable members of the Senate will recall that the Tourism Investment Act 2017 became operative in November 2017. The primary objective of the act is to make Bermuda more attractive to foreign investors and to incentivize and assist local tourism-related business owners to invest in their product. The Tourism Investment Act provides a scale of tax relief that can be assessed by developers through the grant of an order approved by this House. By way of background, Madam President, the Nautilus property located on 88 South Shore, Warwick, is adjacent to the Azura Hotel residence located at 90 South Shore, Warwick. The Church Bay Trust Company Limited, licensed trust corporation and the trustee of the Nautilus Trust, acquired the Nautilus property on the 10th of January 2021 and is the sole shareholder in the Atlantic Hotel Limited. The trust submitted an application for a tourism investment order on behalf of Atlantic Hotel Limited on March 25th, 2021. The Nautilus property consists of 1.97 acres and is substantially zoned tourism, 75%, the remainder being residential 2. The Nautilus property was acquired in order to serve as an expansion project to the Azura, which has now been substantially developed by the principals of the Church Bay Trust Limited. The intent is to develop the Nautilus property in 2 phases. Phase 1A would redevelop the existing Nautilus main house into 3 units, creating between 20 and 24 new units. Phase 1B would renovate the remainder of the existing Nautilus house and infrastructure, creating additional hotel quality amenities, including but not limited to landscaping, lighting, roadways, and a new saltwater pool. The lower floors of the existing residence building will be renovated to create 2 additional hotel residences, a total of 6 hotel keys or suites. Phase 2 will consist of the creation of 20 additional hotel residences, 9 2-bedroom suites, and 11 3-bedroom suites. The total hotel inventory will include a potential maximum of 60 new or like new keys, with the minimum 24 keys, each if the owner only commits to 1 mandatory key or suite. Madam President, the trust has committed to $3.5 million to the acquisition of the subject property and a further $250,000 to its closing cost. The construction cost of Phase 1A and Phase 1B is estimated to be $3 million, and Phase 2, $18,500,000. The total budget for the cost, including acquisition, renovation, professional fees, transaction cost, reserves, and working capital, is estimated at $28 million. Madam President, in meeting criteria of the new hotel, this order provides the Nautilus property to receive, in summary, full relief of customs duty for a period of 6 years from the commencement of this order, full exemption from hotel occupancy tax for a period of 6 years after the hotel's opening date, full exemption from the employer's share of the payroll tax for a period of 6 years from the hotel's opening date, subject to annual verification of a management training program for Bermudians, and full exemption from land tax for 1 year, starting 6 years after the hotel's opening date, subject to verification that the hotel employs 70% of Bermudian staff, and ending on its first anniversary of that date. Madam President, it is forecast that 100 to 150 construction jobs will be engaged during the 3 to 4 year development process of Nautilus. A similar number of jobs was created during Azura's development. The Nautilus development will also result in additional 25 plus jobs of varying duration in support of the development's design, engineering, financial, legal, and associate disciplines. Upon completion of Nautilus, the combined Azura Nautilus Resort is expected to provide approximately 80 hospitality and food and beverage jobs. This, Madam President, is welcome news and signals a strong vote of confidence in Bermuda's tourism and represents another product offering in support of the rebuilding of the industry. Madam President, this government is well aware of the challenges ahead for our island. The commitment and confidence demonstrated by the Atlantic Hotel Limited is recognized and deeply appreciated. Bermuda cannot rest on its past laurels. The constant renewal of our hotel product is critical, and this investment order will help to significantly achieve this end. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Owen Darrell, Junior Minister for the Cabinet Office and Tourism. Would any senator care to speak on this? Senator Jones, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I listened with great interest to the junior minister presenting this piece of legislation. And I believe that we all can be very pleased that we have more foreign investment coming into this country to further develop our hotel product. I do have a few questions to ask of the junior minister, and I have some comments after that. When I was listening to the 2 phases of the development, I believe we had a 1A and a 1B. My question would be, is the first phase of development, is that the residential component of the full development? I didn't clearly, didn't fully see how these phases, whether they were separate and apart from one another. So I know that in the tourism industry, the hotel industry, part of the financial component of the financial model is to have a residential component to, in addition to the units that are going to be rented out to the tourists. So if the junior minister can clarify that for me as well. My next question would be access to the waterfront. Now, it was stated in the junior minister's brief that this particular development was going to be a part of the Azure development. And I can assume, but I refuse not to, I don't want to assume, but I'd like to know the access to the waterfront that's there and whether there's going to be an environmental impact assessment, whether an environmental impact assessment is needed and necessary. We know in that particular area on South Shore, there's been a number of developments that have, shall we say, been put in a position of risk because of the potential erosion there on the South Shore. So I would like to know if there's plans for an environmental impact assessment. And also, in light of what we've discussed earlier today and the legislation that was just passed earlier, the Development and Planning Amendment Act, does the junior minister anticipate that there will be a need for a special development order for this particular property as well? It would be good for this chamber to know in advance if this is something that the government anticipates. Most of us would be aware of the Hotel Concession Act that was passed back in 2000, and that was the original brainchild of a former PLP administration that put the concessions together to encourage and incentivize hotel investment in this country. And that particular act, that particular concession has had its successes and shall we say, not so successful experiences. One thing I did take note of, which I am very pleased about, one of the stipulations of this particular amendment, this tourism investment order, is for there to be management training, a management training program in place as part of its plan. My question to this particular piece of this order is, with this management training, would there be a management position at the end of this training plan? Now, I will say this: I have worked in a number of hotel management groups, and I've been the only Bermudian sitting around the table of all the executives. Now, we've seen an improvement, a gradual improvement in that. But one thing I would love to be able to see, just as much as we have a 70% target of hotel staff being Bermudian, I would love to see, for example, a 50% target of Bermudians that are sitting around the executive management table. Just a way of measuring performance, measuring the intentions of these hotels to ensure that our Bermudians not only get into the tourism hospitality industry, but also can see their way to the top of the hospitality tourism industry. So, Madam President, with those questions and those comments, I thank you for my time.
Thank you, Senator Jones. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill, on this order? Hearing none, then Senator Darrow, it's over to you.
Thank you, Madam President. As always, I listen intently to what Senator Jones always has to say, as he does have experience in the tourism industry. So I'm going to work backwards off his questions. The first one is regards to the management training and if we're going to have more, or the desire, I think, of all of us to see more Bermudians in executive management positions. And I can say this just to start, that the government's training and policy unit has already started discussions with the Department of Workforce Development and with the hotel representatives to determine the components of such a plan when it comes to management training. It's likely that there will be a difference between the two hotels, and each brand will have a customized approach as to how this would look. But with that said, that there is a hotel that just recently opened in Bermuda, and I do know that they do have a Bermudian who is on their management or executive team, and they have more that we have been told that Bermudians that will move into those executive positions in the next couple of years once they are sufficiently trained. So to answer your question, Senator Jones, the answer is yes. I think we all do wish to get more Bermudians into the management training and management positions going forward. On the second question, I'll skip to is phase 1A. the way I understand it, is going to be the 25% of the total development, which will be residences. And then phase 1B will move into the hotel and the suite portion. And the second question you did ask is, as you can understand, very technical in nature. I do not have the answers readily available at this time. The one on the impact study, the one on access to the water, and the piece about is the intention to go at SDO. But I will look to getting those three for you. And that's all I have on that, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Darrell. You carry on now and move.
Madam President, I move that the said draft order be approved and the following message be sent to Her Excellency the Governor. May it please you, Your Excellency, the Senate, having had under consideration the draft order entitled the Tourism Investment Nautilus Hotel Order 2021, proposed to be made by the Minister responsible for tourism with the written agreement of the Minister of Finance under the provisions of Section 5 of the Tourism Investment Act 2017, has the honor to inform Your Excellency that the Senate has approved the said draft order.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. Therefore, Senator Darrell, a suitable message will be sent.
Thank you, Madam
to
President.
Her Excellency. Thank you, Senators. We'll now move on to the last item on our agenda, and that is consideration of the draft order entitled the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extension Number 4 Order 2021, and that's in the name of Senator Ariana Hudson, Jr., Minister for Health. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that Standing Order 71-2 be suspended so that Senate may now proceed with consideration of the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extension Number 4 Order 2021.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate do now take under consideration the draft order entitled the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extension Number 4 Order 2021.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I am pleased to invite this honorable House to consider the order entitled the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extension Number 4 Order 2021. Madam President, Senators will be aware that the current Public Health Emergency Order is scheduled to lapse on August 23rd, 2021. The emergency orders, which have been in place since the 30th of June 2020, following the state of emergency put in place on April 1st, 2020, are made pursuant to Section 107A of the Public Health Act 1949 and declare that a public health emergency exists in Bermuda due to a communicable disease that poses a threat to the island. We live on a very small island, Madam President, and as we know from two very serious outbreaks in December last year and in March or April of this year, the COVID-19 virus can spread quickly and with devastating effect. It strikes at the heart of our community as hundreds of people test positive, thousands end up in quarantine, and sadly, people succumb to it and die. To date, Bermuda has lost 33 lives to COVID-19. We can slow the spread of the virus by following basic public health advice of wearing a mask to cover our nose and mouth, as well as physically distancing, downloading the We Health Bermuda app, and avoiding the 3 C's of closed spaces, crowded places, and close contact settings. The more barriers and space there are between you and others, the harder it is for the virus to spread. Also, Madam President, we have added another layer of protection this year, the COVID-19 vaccine. As has been said many times, vaccines save lives, and it is no different with the Pfizer and AstraZeneca vaccines being used in Bermuda now. Both vaccines have proven to be highly effective after 2 doses. While an immunized person can still test positive, evidence shows you are likely to feel few, if any, symptoms, or you may experience only a mild version of the disease because your body is better able to fight off the virus. This means we can keep people out of the hospital and have fewer deaths due to COVID-19. With a reduced viral load in your system, it is also hoped you are less likely to transmit the coronavirus, and research so far is promising. Madam President, this government is firmly of the view that the COVID-19 vaccine is vital to our return to normal. Madam President, Bermuda's goal of community immunity will be achieved when 70% of the total population has been immunized. As of July 17th, the most recent reporting date, 65% of the population has been vaccinated with 1 dose, and 63.7% of the population has been immunized with 2 doses. When you take into consideration just the eligible Bermudian population, which is those that are over the age of 12, 73.3% of the population has received either 1 or 2 doses of a vaccine. These are great results so far. For all those who have taken the important step to get vaccinated, please know your vaccination not only protects you, but it protects your family and our Bermuda community. And we are ever grateful. Madam President, as a government, we recognize it will take more time to reach the goal of community immunity. Younger age groups in particular have not taken full advantage of the vaccines available. However, when the vaccine campaign began in January, the government's immediate goal was to protect our most vulnerable population, our seniors. I am extremely pleased to report that 81% of people between the ages of 65 and 79 years of age have 1 or both vaccine doses, and 87% of seniors over the age of 80 have 1 or both doses. This means we are well on our way to protecting our senior population. To repeat, preventing infection, the onset of the disease itself, and community spread via a program of mass vaccination will be a critical part of how we navigate our way out of this pandemic. We have all felt the impact that COVID-19 has had on us personally, and we all know how it has impacted our island's economy. Getting vaccinated is an integral part of our ongoing collective effort to reduce the spread of the virus here on island. This is essential not only for our health, but also to allow us to return to a sense of normalcy with our daily lives. Madam President, honorable senators, as we all know, COVID-19 was caused by a new virus that spread quickly throughout the world. Unfortunately, it still exists in large part because it can be transmitted so easily between people who are in close contact or through coughs and sneezes. Madam President, the Acting Minister of Health consulted with the Chief Medical Officer and determined that a communicable disease of the first or second category, namely COVID-19, continues to pose a severe threat to public health in Bermuda. The outbreak this past spring, which saw both a sharp rise in positive cases and an increase in deaths, highlighted the impact of the variants of concern. In that outbreak, it was the UK variant of COVID-19, the Alpha variant, which was the variant of concern. To control and contain the spread of infection, public health measures such as those provided for in regulations will continue to be relevant and necessary beyond August 23, 2021. This order before us now will extend the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Order 2021 made under the Public Health Act 1949 to permit the governor to continue the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Powers Regulations 2021, which impose extraordinary measures necessary in the interest of public health to prevent, control, and suppress COVID-19. Madam President, honorable senators will be aware that the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extension Order Number 3, 2021 was made under the affirmative resolution procedure effective June 24, 2021 for 60 days expiring on August 23, 2021. However, the COVID-19 pandemic continues to rage on globally, and a public health emergency continues to exist on our shores. Therefore, in accordance with Sections 107A3 and 4 of the Public Health Act 1949, I bring the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extension Number 4 Order 2021 to this honorable chamber to seek approval for the extension of the public health emergency for a further 38 days, ending on the 30th of September, 2021. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Ariana Hartson. Would any senator care to speak on this order? Senator Robin Tucker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. And thank you to the junior minister for bringing this bill before the House, before the Senate, rather. I just want to say that the opposition has no objection to this particular bill. I do, though, wonder whether there are any plans afoot to encourage or incentivize more people to get vaccinated. I know that this was a topic that had come up quite some time ago. There was a lot of discussion on it. And I also, I want to mention that while I am fully immunized and still believe that it is an individual's personal choice whether they do or whether they do not, that is entirely up to them. But I'm more so talking about the people that might still be a bit on the fence. So there are people that are still, sort of teetering. And if I'm just wondering whether there's anything that, any sort of discussion about perhaps incentivizing those people to get immunized if they so choose, because that too might be helpful in helping us get to that 70% of community immunity. So I think all of us would be very, very happy to see the end of these public health extensions and be able to get back to a sense of normalcy. And so, as has been declared by all of the Ministry of Health officials, that we need to get to that place of community immunity before we can move to the next level. So just wondering what the plan is, if there is one, because otherwise, with all the new variants and the like, then we could be extending these orders from now until the cows come home. So just wondering. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Tucker. Would any other senator care to speak on this order, on this bill? Senator Michelle Simmons, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Bermuda finds itself in a pretty good place right now with regard to COVID-19, but we shouldn't take where we are right now for granted. The virus is still a reality. We see it spreading elsewhere, and we know that the Delta variant is in Bermuda. And of course, that means the potential for more engagement with the local population is there. So I think it's important to make sure that we give the government the power to enact regulations that they need to in order to keep the public safe. And this is one of those emergency extensions that just makes sense. So I support this bill, and I'm still praying, though, that we continue to see no community spread here of the virus. And I'm going to look on the positive side and assume that we will still be in a good place when we meet again in the Senate. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Michelle Simmons. Would any other senator care to speak on this bill? Hearing none, Senator Ariana Hudson is over to you.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I can say that although we have seen a decline in the rates of persons being tested, we are still optimistic about reaching community immunity. I think it only makes sense that, the vaccine enthusiasts who are ready and willing, they stepped up and they made that move in the initial phase. And right now, as Senator Tucker mentioned, we're dealing with those who are a bit hesitant, and persons are hesitant for various reasons. And so I know that our team is working hard to make sure that persons who are a bit hesitant or a bit nervous have the information that they need to make a good decision for themselves. And so I think that that is our focus right now. And of course, we can always do more to, spread our messaging and to make sure that we're focused on definitely reaching community immunity so that we can get back to the business that we're excited about doing.
Thank you. And with that,
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the said draft order be approved and that the following message be sent to Our Excellency, the Governor. May it please Your Excellency, the Senate, having had under consideration the draft order entitled the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extension Number 4, Order 2021, proposed to be made by the Minister responsible for health under the provisions of Section 107A of the Public Health Act 1949, has the honor to inform Your Excellency that the Senate has approved the said draft order. Thank you, Madam President.
is there any objection to that motion for order to be sent? Hearing none, then a suitable message will be sent as you've described. Thank you, Senator
Thank you, Madam
Ariana Hudson,
President.
Junior Minister for Health. Item number 14 of our agenda, motions, there are none. Item number 15, congratulatory and or obituary speeches. Would any senator care to speak?
Yes, Madam President.
Dr. Peets, Honorable Dr. E.G. Peets.
Thank you. Just for a moment to offer one condolence as well as one congratulatory remark. I was saddened to learn this weekend that we lost one of our seasoned entertainers in Gilbert Casey, also known as Bill. And we certainly send our condolences from the Department of Culture to Gilbert Bill Casey. He was an extremely important fixture in our entertainment, particularly during the 70s and 80s, and if not before. So having said that, I know this has been a very difficult year for our entertainers regarding COVID, but in particular, we've lost a number of entertainers in the last year, and we certainly offer our prayers for his family. But on another note, I certainly want to congratulate Dana Celesi. I was in the West End last night, a lot farther west this week, a cup match than I would prefer to be. And just a little west of Maximart, Dana Celesi has had her inaugural opening of the Buna Gallery and Coffee Bar. Apparently, it's going to be the brand new hub for entertainment and culture and the arts. And I had a fantastic time last night. And I certainly will be working with Dr. Kim Dismont Robinson to see how we can assist and partner. She has a great vision for Bermuda entertainment and culture. And I learned a few things last night. Buna stands for coffee. And she had a wonderful coffee bar with authentic coffee from Ethiopia. And I did not know until then that Ethiopia is also the birthplace of coffee. So Dana Celeste and your entire group, you guys did a fantastic job last night. The entertainment from Joy T. Barnum, Ross Solomon, and of course, one of my favorites, Livewire. I really had a good time.
Thank you, Senator Peets. Would any other Dr. Peets, Minister Peets, would any other senator care to speak on? Senator Lindsay Simmons, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I would like to also extend my condolences to Bill Casey's family, as he was at one point my father-in-law. Yes. So condolences to his family, his children, grandchildren. He was an amazing person. I would also like to congratulate the young man that participated in the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Inc. Alpha Battalion last night. I was honored to be a judge. And I'd like to name the six gentlemen that actually participated: Jaden Kuhlman, Vincent Darrow, Seth Hartman, Xavier Ramsey, Keanu Rollins, and Daquan Trott. If this is what Bermuda's young men have in store for us, we have a bright future ahead of us. It was an amazing opportunity to take part in it, and I want to congratulate all of them, and especially to Vincent Darrow for becoming the 2021 Alpha Battalion. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Lindsay Simmons. Would any other senator care to speak? Senator Tucker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to offer condolences, first of all. Condolences to Mary Suzanne Simmons's family. I first met Suzanne in the early 1990s when I joined Conyers-Dale and Pierman. Although I hadn't seen Suzanne in quite some time, I do recall, though, that she was a kind and patient woman who I never heard complain about anything, even when there were many opportunities to do so. She was the person that I remember that always got the complainers back on track. So I extend condolences to Suzanne's family and friends. I'd also like to express condolences to the family of the late Mrs. Phyllis Fobler, who passed away in her 93rd year. She was a constituent in C7. I offer condolences to Ms. Fablo's daughters, Denise and Lynn, and her grandsons, Mikado and Kyoto in particular. I met Denise and her sons when they were students at Work Academy with my children. And so, you know, I've had the opportunity, Mikado was in and out of my house because he was good friends with my son. And so I just wanted to say condolences to the entire family and to Mrs. Fablo's friends. Another expression of condolences for Mrs. Leah Fox, who was a very well-known bus driver. Leah has known me probably before I knew myself. She was a family friend as well. And she also was a person that was driving the bus when I was in high school at Worksac. I remember her being certainly a warm and friendly personality. So again, condolences to her family. On a brighter note, I want to express congratulations to Lene Morton Richardson, who is the 2021 winner of the EY Bermuda Gil Tucker Scholarship. The scholarship was awarded to a value of up to $30,000 a year for a maximum of 5 years until completion of the minimum education requirements to qualify as a certified public accountant. Ms. Morton Richardson is a graduate of the Bermuda High School for Girls, and she'll be heading to Dalhousie University in Halifax to pursue an undergraduate degree in accounting. So certainly looking forward to hearing of her successes in the future and definitely wishing her all the best in her studies. Another note of congratulations I'd like to give to Andre Lamb. I am a boxing fan, and he recently became a professional boxer and won his bout at the Carib Royale Undisputed Promotions event in Florida. And he now boasts a 2-0 record as a professional boxer. So congratulations to Andre. I would also like to express congratulations and good luck, really. So my congratulations might be a bit premature, but certainly expected. Good luck to Flora Duffy, Bermuda's triathlete who's competing today at the Olympics in Tokyo. Congratulations to Kenneth and Gloria Simmons, who are both 95 years old and celebrated 70 years of marriage. They married on July 12th, 1951. I don't know, I think most of us were not even a twinkle in our parents' eye when they got married. I certainly wasn't. But I know her as Aunt Gloria, as she is my uncle's wife, my uncle Millard and my Aunt Eileen. Eileen is sisters to Aunt Gloria. So we definitely share family. So I just want to say again, congratulations to Kenneth and Gloria Simmons, being blessed to have not only many years of life, but also many years together as a couple. And finally, I just want to say congratulations in advance to Somerset for winning the 2021 Cup, the Cup Match Classic. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam President. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Senator Tucker. Would any other senator, Senator Darrell, Senator Irwin Darrell, you have the floor.
Madam President, thank you. I would just like to send congratulations to Mr. Brownlow Place. Mr. Brownlow Place celebrated with his family this weekend 105 years of life. And I do know from another place that a request came in to spend some time with him this weekend. And I do know that his family had a gathering on Sunday evening, I believe. Or Saturday evening. So I just want to say to his daughter, Ms. Charlene Tiro, and other family members, congratulations to this national treasure that we have in Mr. Place, who continues to live a full, purposeful life. Also, I'd like to say congratulations to all of the members. I know we are on the topic of Cup Match of both teams, St. George's Cricket Club as well as Somerset Cricket Club, for being selected to this year's Cup Match Classic. This Cup Match Classic and the lead up to it has been anything but normal or traditional. We haven't had cop match since 2019. So I do want to say congratulations, especially to the Colts. I do know that St. George's, I believe, took 2 Colts in their team this year. So I want to say congratulations to them and their families for all of the hard work they put in. And I will be at the Classic on Thursday and Friday as a prelude to Cleveland County winning the Eastern Counties Cricket Association Cup on August 14th. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Owen Darrell. Would any other senator care to speak? Hearing or seeing none, I would just like a couple of comments myself. And one is to associate myself with Senator Darrell's his congratulations for Mr. Lefroy Brownlow Tucker, who is related to me. And he was the one who identified in the doctor's office some years ago. But anyway, yes, he is, I think he's still driving, but he's a wonderful, wonderful person. Oh, yes, 105 years old and alert. Anyway, he's doing very well. And then on a sad note, I'd just like to express condolences to Winston Everett Eugene Powell, who was funeralized on Saturday. Sent condolences to his brothers, Richard and Stephen Powell, and their families. Winston was a highly skilled mason who became much sought after contractor who built homes all across the island. He was also a self-taught carpenter who specialized in making beautiful cedar dining room furniture. And he was employed by the United States Navy some many years ago, maintaining the Argus Tower that was located 30 miles off Bermuda shores. He was a much loved man. Another cousin of mine. I have quite an extensive family. But anyway, with that, we're moving then on to adjournment. And I hand over to Senator, the Honorable Dr. E.G. Peets, Minister of Youth and Culture and Sport and Government Leader in the Senate.
Madam President, I make a motion that the Senate adjourn until September 15th, 2021.
Thank you. Would any senator care to speak on the motion to adjourn? Oh, hearing, seeing none. And senators, we will adjourn until September 15th. And I want to wish you all a very enjoyable cup match. Merry Prince Day, whatever you do, be safe. Carry on with the regulations. And I extend that to the rest of Bermuda. I'm sure you all join me in making ensuring or even asking the public to be safe over this period. Follow the regulations, and particularly with respect to safety on our roads and adhering to all the regulations that we have talked about today. So with that, Senate stands adjourned.
Go St. George's.